Fermentation economics. Economics means the things of and fermentation industries which are related to the financial matters. In short, fermentation economics means the finances which are related to run a particular fermentation process, right from the establishment of plant till the marketing process. So all those parts are covered under fermentation economics. For a commercial successful fermentation process, a fermentation product must be produced in high yield, and this product must be sold so as to recover the cost along with an acceptable profit. The basic objectives used in developing a fermentation process, that is an economically viable process, are the capital investments in the fermenter and additional equipments should be limited to minimum. Second, the raw materials should be as cheap as possible and you should be utilized very efficiently. A search for possible alternative materials might be made even when the process is in operation. The highest yielding strain of microorganism or animal cell culture should be used. There should be a saving in labor wherever possible, and automation should be used if possible. In a batch process, a batch cycle should be as short as possible to obtain the highest yield of the product. So this allows the maximum utilization of the equipment and turnover. The recovery and fermentation procedures should be as simple and should be as rapid as possible. The effluent discharge should be kept to a minimum. Heat and power should be used efficiently. The space requirement should be kept to a minimum, but there should be some scope for expansion in the production capacity. All the above must be done according to safety guidelines and regulations. These are the basic objectives in order to develop an economically viable, successful fermentation process. The first factor in that, which is very important in relation to fermentation economics, is market potential. Potential means the ability. So these words indicates the ability of the products to be absorbed in the market. It is called as market potential. So this market potential for a particular product, it is dependent on the consumer demand and the utility of the product, that means usefulness of the product. The assessment of the market, to know the economical category of the product. So these economical categories of the product are low price bulk chemicals, for example solvents and biomass. As the name indicates, bulk chemicals means they are produced in large quantity and comparatively their price is also less. Second category, economical category of the fermentation product, is mid price chemicals, so which involves organic acids, amino acids and biopolymers. Third economic category of the fermentation product is high price microbial and animal cell products like enzymes, vitamins, antibiotics, corticosteroids and vaccines. So as the name indicates, All these fermentation products are costly and comparatively they are produced in less volume. So low volume and high price products. And the fourth category is of animal cell products which are expensive, very high price animal cell products. So this includes antibodies, monoclonal antibodies, tissue plasminogen activator, and different types of interferons, different types of corticosteroids which are produced or which are extracted from animal cell fermentations. To sell a particular fermentation product in market, this fermentation product must have a demand in the market, or that market should have a requirement of this particular fermentation product. There are two possibilities. One possibility is already the market is existing. That means the fermentation product is known to the market or to the consumers. Then there will be a competition among this product and the products which are similar products which are already there in the market. Another possibility is that the product may be a newly discovered or newly invented fermentation product, or it may be a preparation. This means that there is no market for this particular fermentation product as it is new. So no market exists for this particular fermentation product. Then there is need to be an establishment of a market for this particular product. Then the second important part in fermentation economics after market potential is, or this is the characteristic which has to be considered under fermentation economics, is the life expectancy of a compound. That means the existence of that particular fermentation product in the market for a particular time period. So the life expectancy of the public demand for a fermentation product is often very difficult to predict. Means how long this product will remain in demand, or how long the consumers are going to require this particular product. That life expectancy is very difficult to predict. Therefore, the market for an antibiotic can be a short-lived if undesirable but unforeseen physiological side reactions show up during the mass usage of antibiotic. There is an example which is given in the book of Cassida, which describes the best example of the life expectancy of a fermentation product in the market. That example is of detergent industry, which was producing detergent using certain microbial enzymes. So it was marketed, but after few years it was found that the workers who were working in this particular fermentation industry, they developed several side reactions on their hands. Very soon this news was out of this industry and people came to know about the results of this, the usage, mass usage of this fermentation, this detergent powder, and immediately the market for this particular detergent, it collapsed. That means the demand for this particular detergent, it decreased very rapidly. Almost the market for this particular detergent, it vanished. So it may happen like this. Another important component in the fermentation economics in relation to market potential is the foreign sales. Means there may be demand of this fermentation product in India. So one need to check whether this demand is continue in foreign countries also. So foreign sales present additional market potential for fermentation products although obviously it must be determined whether a market actually exists abroad for these products or not. If it is already existing, then there will be competition between this Indian product and already the products which are existing in the foreign market. The next part in fermentation economics is recurring and non-recurring expenditures of fermentation industry. Recurring expenditures means the expenditures which a fermentation industry needs to carry out repeatedly. So repeatedly required expenditures are called as recurring expenditures. So what are these repeatedly required expenditures? These are medium constituents. So these are the components of production medium, and these are the components which are required for the development of inoculum preparation. So these medium constituents should be cheap and it should be easily available. There may be a single medium constituent which may increase the final cost of the fermentation medium. So a single component may be costly, that may increase the final selling cost of the fermentation product. Then there will be expenditures towards pre-treatment of raw materials. So generally crude raw materials which are easily available in bulk quantity are preferred in fermentation industry like molasses. However, molasses needs pre-treatment in certain fermentation. It needs to be diluted, it needs to be clarified by using ion exchange chromatography. So a pre-treatment is needed for some types of fermentation, uh, some types of crude media which cannot be directly used as an additive in fermentation medium. There will be cost towards the reagents like acids reagents, alkali reagents, reagents which are required to carry out biochemical tests, estimations, determinations, microbiological assays, etc., etc. It also includes the cost towards antifoam agents. So preferably the medium component should be chosen such that the medium should not generate any foam. So this cost of antifoam agents, it may be minimized. Addition of precursors will also increase the cost of fermentation, because precursors are the specific substances which are added to the fermentation broth so that these substances can be directly converted into fermentation products. Second example of recurring expenditure is labor cost. So labors are of course required in the fermentation industry in order to carry out several processes, handlings like culture handling, inoculum development, operation of production plant, cleaning purpose, recovery and fermentation processes, equipment maintenance, administrative work, etc., etc. Third is fermentation incubation period. Short incubation period, fermentations having short incubation period, it leads to greater turnover, means there will be maximum usage of a single fermentation fermenter or fermentation equipment. So increased turnover is associated with shorter incubation period fermentation processes. That will also uh, associated with the decreased cost. That means within a very short period of time there will be multiple batches of fermentations that can be run. Fourth one is contamination and sterilization. So it may add additional cost to the fermentation, final fermentation. So contamination increase the additional expenditures. So it leads to the loss of medium, because once the contaminants are detected in fermentation broth, of course the whole batch has to be discarded. So it leads to loss of medium in huge quantity, loss of culture, labor, efforts, power, as well as it suffers from low yield. So this decreases the profit. Fifth one is the cost towards product recovery. So extraction and purification, for this there is requirement of solvent, power, different reagents, etc., etc. So the broth should contain minimum contaminating ingredients so that it will decrease the cost of extraction and purification. If it is the contamination, product contamination is more, then the broth becomes more complex. It increases the complexity of whole purification process, and it increases the cost. Sixth one is product purity and quality. So higher, in order to obtain a higher grade of purity product, we need to uh, process the fermentation broth through several purification processes several times, so it increases the cost. And so with increase in the level of purity, there will be increase in the cost of fermentation. So expenditures associated with quality assurance tests for injectables and consumables shall be also considered here. And the seventh one is overhead expenses for running the business, then rent, taxes, insurance, light, heat, office expenditures, salary of the employees, then depreciation cost of the equipment likewise. Eighth one is the waste disposal. So after the fermentation process is over, whatever the waste which is generated following the extraction of the fermentation process, that waste has to be disposed in properly in order to maintain the environmental balance. To avoid the environmental contamination, this part is very important. Several industries may generate this waste uh, and it becomes difficult to dispose that particular waste because of the presence of several undesirable components. So the type of waste that requiring processing before disposal in water bodies on the lands, there is a need of uh, permissions from municipal corporation for the disposal onto the lands or into the water streams. Several industries may have ETP, that is effluent treatment plant. So this increases the extra cost of the fermentation, which requires sterilization as well as transformation or bioremediation process. Ninth one is the research cost. Every industry has research and development division, which is called as R&D department, which work on minor to major problems associated with fermentation product. Say for example, scale down things, attempts to increase the yield. Then non-recurring expenditures. These expenditures are one-time expenditures. Mostly these are called as capital expenditures. So these are required mainly for a newly developed fermentation, the cost towards fermentation plant, the cost towards equipments and the facilities, the cost towards product recovery equipments and purification facilities, cost of land, plant shed, etc., etc.